Hey guys, I just want to take a second now to introduce the major resources that we're going to be utilizing throughout the next 2 weeks as we learn our entrepreneurism skills. There is a ton of content out there on entrepreneurism, and I've combed through a lot of it. I've spent a lot of my holiday break and a lot of late December while you guys are taking exams. I was watching entrepreneur videos. And I've combed through a lot, and I've settled on some pieces that I think are going to be useful to us as we learn our entrepreneurism skills, okay? So I want to talk just a little bit about some of the major resource pieces, and then we'll fill in around all those major resource pieces with a bunch of smaller individual one-off type things that we pull throughout the next 2 weeks. So 4 big, huge resources for us. The first of which, where I started at personally, and I want to introduce at this stage, is Awesome Inc. here in Lexington. You're not going to see a ton of video content from them over the next 2 weeks, but they were influential in helping me personally to think about how to structure something like this. We went and looked at a pitch that they did at their event called 5 Across. Ms. Reno and I both went and checked out that 5 Across event and the entrepreneurs that were doing real pitches for real dollars at that event. And I think both of us walked away with the feeling that we could handle this, we could match it, but we also learned a lot about what was going into those content pitches, how the judging was taking place, that we'll bring to our event here on January the 15th. For our final pitch day. In addition to learning how to do those pitches from Awesome Inc., I also gotten to learn a lot from them about the local entrepreneur scene. There's a few videos we're going to bring in from like Hall of Fame entrepreneurs here from Central Kentucky, but also they are a great network for us to be thinking about as we proceed into entrepreneurism beyond this 2-week activity. Okay, so that is the first big resource that I personally utilized, Awesome Inc. here in town. There's a link that your teacher is going to provide that you can learn more. Second huge resource that we're going to utilize here is a existing course called from the Udacity course on how to build a startup company. Okay, so Udacity is an online courseware provider. Mostly Udacity does training on coding and a bunch of technology stuff, but they also have some other courses around that. One of those courses is how to do a startup. The guy that you'll see a lot in the videos is a former CEO of a few startup companies himself, and has been used by a lot of different entities as one of the primary instructors of entrepreneurism in the United States. He has a few books out. We'll be using a few tools from those books as we proceed throughout the next 2 weeks, but we're definitely going to use the videos and the setup, the layout from that Udacity course as a big guide for what we're doing. Then around that sort of framework that I took from the Udacity syllabus, as well as the similar syllabus that the same guy put together for, I think, the National Science Foundation, some kind of federally funded syllabus on entrepreneurism. In addition to taking sort of that framework, we're going to add on top of that a ton of videos from a guy named Jay Adelson, who happened to be sort of an entrepreneur, a technology startup guy. As you'll see when his videos roll, he has founded several companies. A few of those companies have turned out to be really, really big successes that he has personally sold for tens of millions of dollars. And so he has gotten very wealthy from doing startups, and he built a whole series of videos, of which we're going to watch just a few, on how to do a startup company, how to be an entrepreneur. So we're going to add those videos on top of the Udacity videos, and then on top of all of those content, we're going to also be adding one-off content that we find a particular piece that's awesome here, a particular piece that's awesome here. We're going to add in that also, okay? So that's going to serve as sort of our content base throughout the next 2 weeks. Then in order to get you to a design challenge final product, we need to put you through a process that leads to better products than if you just made it up on the fly. And so those of you that are juniors and seniors in the room are not going to be surprised that the choice we make for which tool to use to get a great design challenge product, we're going to use the design thinking framework that came out of Stanford University and the company called IDEO in San Francisco. That design thinking framework, of which we'll start our first piece yet today, your last activity here on day one is a design thinking piece. We're going to move over the next 2 weeks through each of the steps of that design thinking framework in order to get to better products as a result. You don't want to run with just the first idea that you have. And you also want to make sure that you're field testing your ideas. You want to make sure then that we're going through sort of cycles of prototyping as we try out and we test and we play with those ideas. All of that is going to serve as the foundation for the product development cycle that you're going to move through over the next 2 weeks as you get to those final pitches on the last day, day 10 of J-Term, January the 15th. At the end of all that, you're going to have a great pitch that you're going to make to a bunch of judges, and they're going to be super impressed, and everyone's going to be thrilled and happy, and you're going to get to have all these great skills. Design thinking is going to take us through that. Okay, those are our major content pieces, the major frameworks that we're going to use over the next 2 weeks. I wanted to set up all those up, and then we won't talk about them anymore. You'll just see lots of these pieces start to fall in place over the next 2 weeks.